This is Arne Duncan, the Secretary of Education for 7 years during the Obama administration. And this is Oklahoma State Schools Superintendent Ryan Walters, who supports President Donald Trump.
I'm going to close the Department of Education and move education back to the states. And we're going to do it fast.
President-elect Trump will not eliminate the Department of Education. And this will be just another unfulfilled campaign promise, like getting Mexico to build a wall.
Well, President Trump has laid out the most aggressive, boldest, most conservative reform agenda for education in this nation's history.
This weaponization of the federal Department of Education will just be disastrous.
So why do Trump and some Republicans want to dismantle the Department of Education? And what would that look like? The Department of Education explained.
I think all those federal employees are going to be fired from their jobs. We're going to do away with the agency. That building needs to go away. It needs to be something else.
The U.S. Department of Education, the smallest of the cabinet-level agencies, has more than 4,400 employees and a budget of $79 billion.
Education is mostly a state and local issue, but what the Department of Education does is pretty important.
The department handles Title I funding for high-poverty K-12 schools and IDEA funding for students with disabilities. At the higher ed level, it distributes federal student aid, including loans and Pell Grants. The Office for Civil Rights enforces laws like Title IX, protecting against gender-based discrimination.
Fighting for equity, a focus on excellence, and really driving and scaling innovation. Those are three roles I think are critically important.
Duncan is now the leader of Chicago CRED, a nonprofit working to reduce gun violence.
Let's take IDA very specifically, children with special needs. As you know, historically, those children were actually denied access to going to public schools. And it took the federal government to come in and provide access to children with special needs. There are over 7.5 million children with special needs that receive billions of dollars of additional funding from the U.S. Department of Education. And guess what? You want accountability for those resources.
Superintendent Walters says school accountability should shift from the federal government to parents.
There's nobody who loves their child more or who cares more about their child than their mom and dad. So the more that we empower them through school choice, through transparency and accountability measures, what you're going to see is all schools are going to get better.
Trump faces an uphill battle to abolish the Department of Education. It would take an act of Congress to dismantle the department or to get rid of any of the programs written into federal law.
I sometimes think of this as two different scenarios. A soft abolish would be getting rid of the department, but keeping its various programs, and then just sort of redistributing the programs to other federal agencies. A hard abolish would be getting rid of the department and many or all of its programs. That might be a much tougher sled through Congress and might be a lot more controversial.
This is not a political winner. And you have to be very, very careful. You can lie to parents about a lot of things and maybe get away with it, but if you start hurting their children and you start hurting the children who are already vulnerable, there's going to be hell to pay politically.
The Conservative Heritage Foundation's Project 2025, which Trump has repeatedly distanced himself from, has proposed phasing out Title I funding for low-income students over 10 years and converting other programs to no-strings-attached formula block grants.
President Trump's plan that money could go directly to families to direct those funds. So what you'll see are states have more power to innovate, states have more power to solve their solutions locally, and then frankly, something we already do here in Oklahoma, states have more power to then give power to families, to parents.
Like President-elect Trump, Walters favors school choice programs, generally meaning funding or scholarships for non-traditional public or private schools.
Critics of school choice basically say it will hurt public schools and drain money from public education. In the most recent election, there were 3 states that had some measure of school choice on the ballot. And in all 3 states, including in very red Kentucky and Nebraska, voters voted against expanding school choice.
Aside from dismantling the Department of Education, Trump has signaled he may roll back what he calls the radical left agenda.
We will cut federal funding for any school or program pushing critical race theory, gender ideology, or other inappropriate racial, sexual, or political content onto our children.
They take any 3-letter acronym, DEI, CRT, and try and weaponize it. And so much of what they do is they create these false boogeymen and try and create fear.
Earlier this year, the Biden administration extended Title IX protections for transgender students.
They said boys had to be allowed in the girls' bathrooms and boys had to be allowed in girls' sports, or they would take the funding from us, number one. But number two, that they would come after us legally.
The Supreme Court and lower federal courts have halted the Biden administration rule change to Title IX in a number of states. Religion in schools. President-elect Trump has also signaled support for religion in schools, including prayer in the classroom. In Oklahoma, Superintendent Walters mandated that schools share a video in which he announces an Office of Religious Liberty and Patriotism and prays for Trump.
I pray in particular for President Donald Trump and his team as they continue to bring about change to the country.
We wanted our teachers and our students to know we will protect your right to exercise your religious beliefs.
At least 7 Oklahoma school districts have said they will not show the video to students. The state's attorney general said the directive for schools to show the video was, quote, unenforceable.
Today we purchased over 500 Bibles that will be in the AP government classrooms across the state. Bible just like this.
The same Bible endorsed by Donald Trump and selling for $60 per copy.
We must make America pray again.
Trump is a very, very easy guy to figure out. You praise him, you ingratiate him, and you give him money. And what you're seeing is lots of folks, including the superintendent of Oklahoma, ingratiate themselves and actually use taxpayer money to buy Trump Bibles, which is sort of stunning to me.
So what we wanted was a document that had everything in there. So that's the Bible, the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, the Declaration of Independence. So the Bible we purchased had all of them. In Oklahoma, we're going to continue to lead behind President Trump and make sure that his agenda is enacted.
If all you have is people who are, political hacks, who are trying to, weaponize and politicize education for political gain, we're going to do a grave disservice to our country's families, to our country's children, and to our nation's economy.
Whether Trump pushes through on abolishing the Department of Education may come down to how much pushback he gets from a GOP-controlled Congress.